It's Tuesday, May the 20th, 2025, as I bring you guys this update, and we are in day number 5 since 10 prisoners escaped from the Orleans Justice Center down in New Orleans in a brazen movie-like escape that was carried out in the middle of the night when it seemed that nobody in this facility was on watch at all. Folks, since this escape has taken place, there's been a nationwide manhunt, multiple agencies involved in this, up to a $20,000 reward being offered for any information that leads to the apprehension of these guys, and a lot of finger pointing that has been taking place as well. But the biggest update to bring you at this moment is that a fourth escapee, 21-year-old Gary Price, locked up for a murder charge and being held without bond, was just captured yesterday in an abandoned house a little more than 10 miles away from the jail complex. A neighbor's home surveillance camera captured as authorities apprehended this fugitive and took him into custody, which now brings the total of escapees still on the run down to 6. When this story first broke, they showcased all of the prisoners who were out on the run and showcased the age of all of these prisoners. The youngest now being mentioned as 19 years old and the oldest 42 years old. But one thing that I find really interesting at this point is the 4 that have been captured thus far are all seeming to be the youngest of the bunch. The first being Kendall Miles, 20 years old, who was captured in the French Quarter, found hiding underneath of a vehicle. He was also seen on facial recognition cameras that they have. Where Kendall Miles was apprehended at is only a little bit more than 3 miles away from the jail that he escaped from. The second escapee captured, Robert Moody, 21 years old, said that he was found in Central City, New Orleans. When I looked this area up, this seems to also be about 3 miles away from the facility. DeKenyon Dennis, the oldest to be apprehended at this point, 24 years old, was found in New Orleans East, which seems to be about the furthest that these guys have made it away from the jail, that being a little bit more than 10 miles away. And then again, just yesterday, Gary Price, 21 years old, found in an abandoned home in the 4600 block of Good Drive, New Orleans. And that seems to be in the New Orleans East area as well. And again, 10 miles away from the facility. Folks, the furthest that these guys have made it seems to be about 10 miles. But that's just for the guys that have been apprehended thus far. And again, these are the youngest of the bunch. We've got older escapees, 42 years old. Will these older escaped prisoners be the ones who are apprehended last and possibly who have made it the furthest away? Or by the time this is all said and done and all 10 of these guys are apprehended, will it illustrate the picture that these guys really did not have a means to an end and couldn't even get out of the city? I've seen news reports where authorities have said that they're expecting to have the remaining 6 of these guys in custody by the end of the week. So hopefully that will be the case, but there is a lot that is going on still with this active investigation, and I've got a lot of interesting things that I want to share with you guys in this video. I want to start first with this though. I wanted to look this facility up on Google Earth just to try to illustrate for myself and possibly for you as well a better picture of what took place here. And here I've got it pulled up, and the first thing that we can notice about this place is just the size of it. This is a massive complex. And, you know, we've seen the escape footage. It's been all over the place. But let's go ahead and take a look at the backside of this facility, because this appears to be the loading docks that camera footage captures these guys jumping from and then running to the fence to get over and then escape into what's been reported as a nearby neighborhood. But if we look at the backside of this facility, the fence that they jumped over is off to the side of the facility. Here's the front, so it appears that where these guys escaped from was off to the left side of the facility. Here's those 8 lanes of traffic that they would have had to run across. There's the train tracks that are right beyond the fence. And as soon as they jumped off of that loading dock, as soon as they made it to this point in the escape plan, the only thing that separated these 10 escapees from freedom was one single fence. This right here. And as soon as they jumped over this, it was the train tracks, and then across damn near 10 lanes of traffic, and then just right over here. You've reached what appears to be the closest neighborhood to this facility. Fourth New Orleans inmate captured as manhunt intensifies and DA's staff members flee for safety. A fourth inmate who escaped from a New Orleans jail Friday was captured Monday as hundreds of local, state, and federal authorities scrambled to find the ones who still remain on the loose. As of Monday evening, 6 men remained on the run after they bolted out of a hole carved in the jail wall, sprinted across an interstate, and vanished. Corey Boyd, Jermaine Donald, Derek Groves, and Tony Massey, Leo Tate, and Lenton Van Buren are the 6 escapees that have still evaded capture. They face an array of charges such as aggravated assault with a firearm, false imprisonment with a weapon, and murder. False imprisonment with a weapon is freaking kidnapping, carjacking, or something just as freaking serious. These dudes are violent. These dudes have scary charges. They have done horrendous things. People are scared to know that these guys were able to escape from a jail and are still on the run? The suspects took advantage of a faulty locking system, a jail employee who had stepped away to get food, and a complex escape plan that may have involved inside help, authorities say. I want to mention the inside help real quick. I was watching a news conference this morning about this case, and they said they didn't find it feasible that these guys could have cut the piece of rebar that was needing to be cut for them to be able to jimmy their way through that hole behind that toilet and sink in that handicapped cell. As I listen to that and I hear that somebody had to make that cut from the opposite side, I just got to be honest with you, I can't possibly imagine that would be a staff member. Well, hold that thought. Turns out I'm mistaken. Literally had to stop editing this video to bring you this breaking news. Folks, it has just been reported that a jail employee, a maintenance worker at the facility where those 10 guys escaped from, has just been arrested. Literally 35 minutes ago, New Orleans jail employee arrested, accused of helping mass escape of inmates. A maintenance worker at a New Orleans jail where 10 inmates escaped has been arrested and accused of helping facilitate the breakout. Sterling Williams, a maintenance worker at the Orleans Parish Justice Center, was arrested and booked into jail Tuesday morning. Sources familiar with the arrest told the news. Did he just get arrested and booked into the same jail that he was a maintenance worker at? Williams allegedly shut off the water to a toilet to aid in the escape in an apparent attempt to help clear the way for inmates to escape. Williams is facing 10 counts of principal to simple escape and 1 count of malfeasance in office. Do you have a 20-volt DeWalt Sawzall with a metal cutting blade, perchance, you could bring to work? Also, real quick, they say 3 staff members have been placed on unpaid leave since this has taken place. But there's also been mention of like 20 people on shift during this escape. Where were all of these people at? And if by meaning that you had some sort of inside help, I don't know if you've seen that movie, The Town. I'm sure everybody has. There's a scene where these guys dress up as nuns with the nuns' masks on, and they're doing the robbery in broad daylight, and they get in the high-speed chase, and they end up finally getting away. And when they finally stop, there's a cop sitting in his car eating a donut. And the cop sees them with those automatic weapons, and they see the cop. And the cop literally just turns the other way and continues eating the donut. Maybe it was that sort of help. What do you do if you're on shift? You're just a lowly sheriff's office correctional officer. What do you do if all of a sudden down the hallway you see coming running towards you 10 prisoners in the middle of the night? Are you going to be a hero in that moment? You know, what they've shared with us thus far is the footage from inside the cell block where the prisoner is jimmying the door, trying to get that to break free from the lock. I'm guessing it's an hour later. You've got the footage of these guys running and jumping off of the back loading dock on the back side of the facility. Is there no other footage of these guys inside of the jail? You mean to tell me that in the hour that it took them to get from point A inside that handicap cell to that back loading dock. You mean to tell me that's all the footage that you have? Even though officials described the escapees as armed and dangerous, they didn't inform the public of the security breach for several hours. Here's what we know about the escape, the multi-state manhunt, and who's blaming who for the calamity that has caused some fearful residents and lawyers with the district attorney's office to flee. The hole itself is one sign of continued lapses at the facility, according to Williams. Williams is the district attorney. Someone should have caught the destruction of the toilet and destruction of the wall and getting out, because it doesn't happen in a day, does it? Absolutely. Is nobody doing cell inspections in here? Are we not doing any rounds? Something like this just further showcases the fact that these guys knew they were going to be able to get away with this. Nobody was checking anything. And again, folks, here's a picture of that handicap cell with that toilet and sink removed from the wall, the hole in the wall, and one of the biggest absolute pie-in-the-face moments of this is the message that these prisoners left behind on the wall, scribbled, "Too easy, LOL." But something that I did not notice, and it wasn't until I saw somebody else mention this, is, folks, there's actually another message that they left as well, and it's right above "Too easy, LOL," that states, "Catch me if you can." All of this that has transpired since Friday just makes the sheriff and the sheriff's office look absolutely inadequate and incapable of doing their job. A Louisiana State Representative, Amy Adato Friedman, has called for the sheriff to resign, calling the escape an alarming failure of leadership. Sheriff Susan Hudson's most fundamental responsibility is to keep inmates in custody. In response, the sheriff said she's got no plans to resign. "I remain committed to leading this office through the current crisis and continuing the long-term work of reform and public service as I was elected to carry out." I've heard mention in other stories that this is an election year for the sheriff. I don't particularly think she's going to win re-election. Williams, again, that being the district attorney, called the jailbreak a complete failure of the most basic responsibilities entrusted to a sheriff and a jail administrator. The security breach happened on the first floor of the jail. Could these guys have carried this out if they were on another floor in the jail, where cells have sliding doors that are able to be manipulated by force and forced off the track that they're on, which allows individuals to enter and exit at will? Just picture this real quick. You're locked in a cell. You've got an enemy in the cell block with you. You don't want problems with this guy, but he's bringing them to you. Just like in that footage that we have seen of these guys jimmying that cell door open in an effort to escape. It's probably not hard to imagine that something similar could be done in an effort to get to somebody. I think it goes without saying that you are not safe in this facility. The primary security breach and concern is the facility's infrastructure. We have identified that we have a large number of high security individuals in a minimum custody facility. This is the first that I'm learning of a jail just being a minimum custody facility. You know, most jails that I know in the state that I live in, and maybe it's different in every state. If you know different, please comment and let me know. But in most jails, you've got a low, medium, and high. A minimum, medium, maximum. A green, yellow, red. Something along those lines. So we're blaming this on the fact that this was a minimum custody facility where we've got maximum security individuals being housed at. We're blaming this on the infrastructure. We're blaming this on the budget. We're blaming this on the lack of staff. You know, as a sheriff, like was mentioned, your number one responsibility is to keep people in custody. Well, that goes beyond just locking the door. You need to hire. You need to get a budget if you don't have a budget. I'm quite certain that there is quite a bit of money that's allocated toward the judicial system everywhere. So how is this money being used down in New Orleans in the sheriff's department? Maybe there's a mismanagement of funds. Maybe we're spending a little too much on certain things. I don't know. I'm just speculating. I have no idea. But if this sheriff thinks that they've done a good job, that she has done a good job, she is sadly mistaken, because this happened on your watch, whether you were clocked in or not. And you have essentially ran this jail into the ground. You've given these guys the green light and the knowledge without even trying to that they could pull something like this off. Yo, there ain't no guards. There ain't no guards who are going to be on shift. We could do whatever we want here, including escape. Williams said dangerous inmates like the men who escaped shouldn't have access to the first floor in the first place. That's actually a damn good point. Why were they on the first floor? There's a critical need for repairs and upgrades at the jail to ensure doors and locks are fully functional, the sheriff said. There are deficiencies in the facility that cause public safety concerns. Bianca Brown, I probably mispronounced that, forgive me if I did so. The sheriff's office chief financial officer said the budget would need to be increased from $68 million to $150 million. The locks alone would cost $5.2 million. And the jail has only about 60% of the staff it should, the sheriff said, and 150 more deputies are needed. Just wanted to bring you guys this update. You let me know what you think about all of this. There are still, at this point, 6 dangerous fugitives still on the run, and hopefully by the end of the week, they've got most all of, if not all of, these guys captured so that this escape ordeal can be over with. Because until it is, there's certainly going to be a lot of uneasy folks down in the South having to deal with this. Thank you for allowing me to share. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you did so, please leave a like and a comment letting me know exactly what you thought about this. And as always, until next time, enjoy life, the free world. Never take a moment for granted and make the most of every day. Peace!